Hey everyone, so today we're doing something different. We're making spring onion pancakes. So yesterday I got injured in sparring. I've got a pretty big, fat, swollen, purple finger. Doesn't really close into a fist and it's quite sore to move, quite sore to touch. So we can't really do much training. So we're going to make some spring onion pancakes. Now I grew up eating this straight frozen from the packet. You can buy them at any Chinese grocery store. They're absolutely delicious. But today we're going to try making it from scratch, which I've never done before. And I'm going to see if me, who's got no experience making them before, can make something better than the frozen pack. Alrighty, so we've got our ingredients here. We've got 2.5 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of room temperature water, and a 1/2 cup of hot water. Now the issue is that flour, the measurement of flour should be done by weight, not by volume, because how finely flour is ground can change how much flour you got quite drastically, but the recipe said 2.5 cups of flour, didn't give any weight, so this is what we're going with. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our dry ingredients, toss them together, got my chopsticks, give it a bit of a mix. Then we're going to take our hot water and just add that to the mix too. Now we're getting a very clumpy flour bits in here. And I probably should, well, I don't own a bigger bowl, but it would be nice to have one. We're going to take our room temperature water, add that to the mix too. I'm just going to use my hands to try and coax it together. So I've been kneading for about 10 minutes and that's probably because I don't know what I'm doing, and I've also had to add water a few times. Now we've got a smooth ball of dough. Seems about right, I guess, I don't know. So now what we've got to do is we've got to cover this with a wet towel and then leave it to rest for about 20 minutes. And in that time I'm going to clean up this workspace and start chopping some onions. Alrighty, some people go overboard with their spring onions. I'm just going to use a moderate amount. I'm also just going to use the green bit and maybe a little bit of that light green bit. I'm going to save the whites for something else because they've got a bit too much. They're a bit tough. And so we just want to cut these into rounds and then put them on a pancake. So I'll just cut them into maybe 3mm rounds. It's also really hard to cut when you can't grip your knife, so I'm using a pointer grip instead. And I've got a bit less control like that. Alright, so now it's been 20 minutes. We've got our 3 ingredients that make up our pancake. We've got our dough, got our spring onions, and we've also got oil to brush it down. Dough's been rested for 20 minutes. It's sort of springy, it's doughy, it's nice, I guess. I've never made it, so I assume that's what it's supposed to be like. We'll also put down baking paper so we can roll it out because I don't have a nice flat chopping board to roll out on. So first things first, I'm just going to try and make this into a nice long sausage so I can cut it into pieces. Now I've got a nice sausage, going to split it into 6 pieces. Now with each piece I'm just going to roll that as flat as I can, try and flatten out and make it as thin as possible. Alright, so I've got a really thin dough, you can sort of see my fingers through it. So now I'm going to brush it with oil. I'm going to get a few spring onions and just sprinkle them all over it. Alrighty, then I'm just going to roll it up and then we'll have a nice spring onion dough spiral. And then after that, I'm going to roll it up again and then flatten it so we'll have all of these crispy layers in between. Got my first roll. Now I'm going to try and flatten it, and then we'll roll it this way. can see we've got a really nice spiral. I'm just going to flatten this and roll this out into our pancake. Now I like mine really thin because then they're really nice and crispy. Some people like them thicker, make them however you want.
Alright, and there's our first ready to cook spring onion pancake, and I'm pretty impressed because it actually looks like what it's supposed to look like, which is not what I was expecting from me, but you know, we'll see how it turns out after it's cooked. So these two are the ones I'm going to cook right now, and these are off to the freezer. Alrighty, so this one here is the frozen one, this one's the fresh one. You can see they look pretty similar, so I think I did a pretty good job. So you get a nice non-stick pan, just put a little bit of oil in it, you don't need too much. Now with the frozen ones, then what I like to do is I like to preheat the pan and then just toss it through without it being on the fire, because it's frozen to the core, so I want to defrost that core so that I don't have a raw dough flavour. People say that they like to have it chewy in the middle. I think there's a big difference between chewy and raw dough. So yeah, it's completely soft, and now it's defrosted. It's at the same stage that the fresh one would be. So you can see now we're getting some browning. It's happening by itself, I'm not trying to force it, just letting it cook. You can also see the layers starting to puff up and come apart, so you get that flaky texture. Alrighty, so I got the two side by side. They look pretty good, they smell really good. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not healthy. I'm not going to tell you that you got antibiotic effects of spring onions or anything. It's fat, it's carbs, eat it at your own risk. Alrighty, so let's have some of the frozen one first. Tastes delicious, taste that I know very well, you're very familiar with. And over here we got the fresh one. It's a little bit more rigid. It's still quite pliable, but it's not as soft and floppy as the frozen one. And it's got a much stronger green onion smell. This is fantastic. It's crispy on the outside, it's really flaky, it's got a soft juicy center. I'd say it's well worth the time that I put in, and it wasn't that hard to make. You just need flour, water, green onion, oil, salt, sugar, done. So try it yourself at home. It's fun. Who knew that not training could be this delicious? Alright, I'll see you next time.